gentlemen, it's a Tuesday for us, which means it's a Friday for you, or Thursday whenever we release this. This is the 4th and 1 podcast, Anchor.fm.
Don't tell us the future.
1, and then Instagram at 4th and 1 podcast. You know, sometimes I just mess myself up, and we just go from there. Obviously, this is brought to you by you guys and also my buddy Luke Weiler for letting me use his music without his knowledge.
Killing me, Smalls.
It was I wouldn't say it was a hectic week in college football, but it was an interesting week in college football. And
it was
as
a
you
solid
know, we
week.
are a college football podcast at heart. We're both wearing sweaters. Micaiah has his hat on backwards. I don't have my glasses on. So we're just going to get rolling. I guess we're going to start at the top here. Out of Wisconsin, Paul Chryst is out. I'm assuming that's the head coach. I did not hear about this. What's going on?
Yeah, Paul Chryst, he's been there a long time. Probably over 10 years, I would assume. Is out at Wisconsin. They're off to a 2-3 start. They got throttled by Ohio State, and I think it's just the one because the quarterback position has kind of regressed, and when you're Wisconsin, much like Iowa, when your quarterbacks suck, your quarterbacks have to be able to be, you know, Cade McNamara, steady, move the ball downfield, don't turn the ball over. And when they're not that, it makes it extremely hard to win football games. And that has regressed enough. Defense still good. So Jim Leonard is the interim head coach, was the defensive coordinator. So that'll be interesting to see if maybe he winds up with the job. Who knows?
Well, all of the Big Ten coaches entered the seasons with their jobs intact. That has gone to the wayside. We saw, obviously, Scott Frost lose his job after getting extended at Notre Dame. And now we see Paul Chryst out at Wisconsin. Micaiah, I counted 7 teams that were unranked before this week that are now ranked. They're all within the first 17 rankings, so 25 through 17. Now, they might have been ranked before, i.e. Cincinnati, but there are 4 new unranked teams that kind of catch my eye here, and I only have to bring them up because 2 of them we have to ask what year it is. Number 22, Syracuse. 5-0 to start the year. They will be 5-2 over the next 2 weeks as they play NC State and Clemson respectively.
Well,
this weekend and next weekend. But did you see the Syracuse after beating they won to UConn, but they beat Purdue, who beat Minnesota this weekend.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They beat Louisville, and they beat Virginia. Were 4 of their games.
They have had quality opponents, and they've looked really good in all of them. And listen, maybe they get some lucky hops. Maybe they, F around a little bit and beat NC State. Or maybe they just get blown out by both of those teams, and it's Syracuse just slightly better.
Who knows? Clemson's only ahead in the Atlantic ACC. Because they have another conference win. Also, remember, what was it, 2 years ago? A year ago when Syracuse upset Clemson? So, hey, maybe, probably not, but maybe. Another, which we talked about, it's Rock Chalk Jayhawk, baby. It is Kansas Jayhawks at 19, 5-0. Not the highest-ranked Big 12 school, but we will go on from it. Big 12, a little bit surprising, but touch on Kansas first.
Well, it's just Kansas. Kansas, unbelievable season, continues to even get better. This week, game day will be at Kansas for the first time ever. So the list of FBS schools that game day has not been to is down to 5, I believe. They will take on TCU that just smacked around Oklahoma. and they made it look decently easy. Kansas looking good, normally puts up a lot of points, but ran into an Iowa State defense that is very good, and they kind of matched them, and they matched their style. It helped that Iowa State's kicker forgot how to make field goals, definitely, but Kansas, 5-0, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, and honestly, the Big 12 looks very winnable if you get the right bounces this year. Clearly, the cream of the crop is still Oklahoma State after their, I would say, pretty convincing win over Baylor this weekend. But maybe Kansas hangs around a little bit, surprises a lot of people.
It's possible. There are now 7 schools that Game Day haven't visited. Cal, Duke, Illinois, Kansas, Maryland, Rutgers, Syracuse, and Virginia. We take Maryland off that list, and we get 7. Maybe they'll visit Syracuse next week. I'm not sure where they're at.
Maryland's got a nice little team this year.
Maryland does have a
I
nice
wonder
little
if
team.
Ohio
They
State's
are at Clemson, so we will not knock 2 off the list. What did you say?
Who's at Clemson?
Syracuse is at Clemson.
Oh, at Clemson.
Weeks.
Yeah.
So
No, I said Maryland. I don't know where the Ohio State and Maryland game is, but if it's in Maryland and Maryland only has 1 loss, you could get 2 in 1 year.
Iowa, Ohio, that is the week before Michigan, and it is at Maryland. It is in College Park.
And so if Maryland, I think Maryland's only loss currently is to Michigan. So if Maryland runs the table and Ohio State's unbeaten, Maryland's top probably 18 at that point, I would say.
Yeah, so they have to run. They run Penn State, Ohio State back to back, but they have to get through Purdue, Indiana, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. Maryland currently, unfortunately, well, for the Big Ten, not ranked. Other surprise, Big 12. Makai, are you surprised? We got 3 Big 12 schools at the beginning of the season. We were kind of talking down on the Big 12, and now all of a sudden they're putting up. They have 3 undefeated teams and the 4 teams in the top 25 with Kansas State. Not the 4 teams we were expecting, having Baylor having fell
absolutely.
out.
Yeah, I think that they are better than what we definitely thought at the beginning of the season. Like you said, we talked down, but I think all these programs heard that, and all these programs take great pride, and then, it's just bulletin board material for coaches at that point. So, I mean, yeah, but there was a reason for that, because the Big 12 has always seemed to be just a half step behind everything else. They didn't go to a conference championship game. They were the last conference to really do that. Remember, that screwed up a Baylor and a TCU actually getting into a college football playoff, which I believe they would have made the national championship game with the way they looked in the Peach Bowl that year. So can you really blame us, I guess is what I'm getting at, that we did that. But yeah, I mean, it's good for college football that all the conferences have good teams that are ranked, that have intriguing matchups week in, week out. It's just good for the sport.
So just real quick, funny side note here. I just happened to scroll down on the ESPN's ranking page, and I got the FCS coaches poll pulled up here. And Eastern Washington is ranked 21st with a 1-3 record.
Well,
Can you
it's
believe
because
that they played all 2 of those losses were to FBS schools.
Yeah,
it's funny.
I always found that fascinating or intriguing how the FCS ranks. Like, do they have to take the FBS matchups out of it?
Well, clearly not. They clearly don't care. I mean, so I guess clearly they do, because North Dakota State is ranked 1st, and their only losses to Arizona of all teams. So who knows with wins against South Dakota and Youngstown State. So moving back to football that we might actually care about, as we kind of transition over here, looking over the top 10. Again, Michigan, quality win over Iowa. Iowa actually scored more than 7 points. Put up 2 touchdowns against Michigan, but Michigan finally gets a win at Kennett under Harbaugh. Micaiah, we watched most of this game. We had some fun. This was the first week I watched the most college football besides week 0. What was your takeaway from the Michigan game?
Michigan, this team kind of, has things to work on, like every team. But this team and group of young men seem to want to prove that last year's team, they can do it better than last year's team. Like, they want their own identity, and I feel like they want to show the country that they aren't just last year's team. And so it's a really workman's-like mentality, and I've really been enjoying watching it. But, to beat Iowa, you just have to play Iowa football. Can't turn the ball over, have good all-around play offensively, defensively, and special teams, and that's what Michigan did. Didn't turn the ball over. J.J. McCarthy still needs to hit a deep pass, and I think that's why he was in the game. But Simeon, you commented that he was made the starters for 2 throws that he made on Saturday. Do you remember those throws?
I really only remembered the one against Ohio and against Hawaii, and now I'm remembering the one that he made. It was a rollout. He bought himself time, and his running back, his hot read basically wasn't there, so he took to the back of the end zone and tossed it over some heads.
Right. And then he made one just slightly after that where they were on the near hash. Mom, for those of you and anyone who doesn't know, the near hash is when you're watching the football game on the TV. It's the hash line nearest to you.
Nearest to you? Wow.
Yeah.
Micaiah, dropping knowledge.
Thanks. You like that? He threw it from that hash across the entire field to the other sideline at the other end and dropped it in between 2 defenders to Andrell Anthony. Those 2 throws are why he is the starting quarterback at Michigan. He can be Cade McNamara, and then they can use his legs a little bit more as it gets later into the season. But if he doesn't turn the ball over, he's there to make 2 or 3 throws per game, and that's it.
They take on Indiana Indiana's not in Champaign. They're in Springfield, I believe. No,
Bloomington, Indiana.
I got there. They're at the big noon game on Fox this week. Another game we watched a little bit of. Oh, I think that was the one. No, that was a 3:30 game. It was Ole Miss at Kentucky. Nope, other way around. Kentucky at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin showing why he was a good hire for Ole Miss, them winning out that game. Micaiah, is this more of a good Ole Miss win or more of a Kentucky bad loss?
A little bit of both. Kentucky turned the ball over 3 times in Ole Miss territory, including the fumble at the end of the game. But sometimes in college football, you just need certain bounces of the football or non-calls made during the season that kind of keep you moving when you should have lost. And Ole Miss kind of seems to be on that trajectory right now. However, their defense is much improved from last year, and Lane Kiffin's always going to cook up a offensive scheme. This year, it's just their ability to be able to run the football at an elite level.
Micaiah, I think the big news that we should have touched on to begin with was Bryce Young going out in the Alabama game that they were able to win against Arkansas. Did we have any updates from that?
I Googled it earlier today, and he's currently day-to-day and probably going to be a game-time decision, which is why I had a hard time putting that game on my top 5, which they are not on, so stick around for that segment. But yeah, I mean, this is potentially a season-altering injury just because of how good he is. However, his backup came in and ran the ball really well, and Jahmyr Gibbs, who was the ACC Player of the Year last year and the ACC All-Purpose Yards leader, kind of took over the game and had 2 70-plus yard touchdowns runs. So Alabama kind of went old school, ran the football a lot, and beat up on Arkansas's front 7 that had, to that point, performed extremely well.
They take on he who won't be named this year, but we might as well talk about them. Now unranked Texas A&M, 8 p.m. on CBS. Micaiah, Texas A&M falls again.
Yeah, to Mississippi
Another
State.
loss after having the best recruiting class in a while. What is going on right now?
Well, I hate how people are using that as an excuse, like why they should be winning so much. Like those players probably aren't even seeing the field right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know, but you know what I'm saying.
I do. They just have quarterback issues, man. I mean, they have skill at every single position. Anais Smith, yeah, he went out, their senior wide receiver, but they still have A-Chain in the backfield. They have 2 freshman wide receivers who've been performing extremely well this year. It's the quarterback. They tried out Haynes King, nothing. They tried out Max Johnson, got them a big win against Miami, and then the following week as well, I think to LSU, it was another SEC school, and then he just sucked this game, and so you lost to a Mississippi State team that's also starting to find some confidence.
Arkansas is who you were thinking of.
Arkansas, thank you. Who was I talking about?
Texas A&M quarterbacks?
Yeah. I completely lost my train of thought.
Well, that's your fault, not mine.
So that's that.
That one's gonna hurt.
Yeah,
All right.
it is.
Well, we were
rolling, and now I completely lost my train of
things
thought.
That make you lose your memory. I just wrote this note, and I just wanted to share this for the podcast. One of my really good friends got married. Micaiah's brother-in-law. Shout out Chris and Hannah. Congratulations. So I did sober October after their wedding. So it was their wedding was on Sunday. So it was like 2 or 3 days into. But before then, I wrote down on the notes here, how good is alcohol? Because, I think it's just because it messes you up. If it was called anything else or was anything else, like if water got you as drunk as alcohol, I'd be like, how good is water?
How good is water?
Mind you, I didn't get drunk at all this week, but still, alcohol is fun, and the way that we dress it up is a lot of fun. And I just wanted to share my thoughts because that's all I get in this podcast.
That's it. Done.
Oh my goodness.
It's really bothering me because I knew I had a point about Texas A&M, and I just
their quarterbacks need help.
Yeah.
God save the queen. Okay. Well,
okay.
No, he didn't. So God save the king, I guess. You have Wake Forest, who jumped up 7 spots, so they went from 22 to 15. I honestly forget. I remember watching some of the game or seeing highlights or something. That's right. They beat Florida State.
Yeah, and their defense actually showed up. Only allowed 21 points, I believe, to a Florida State team, which is actually pretty good for Wake Forest. They were my only loss this past weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, if you bet along with me, you made mega money this week because I went 4-1, and your boy Fancy Trash Can went 5-0.
Here's the worst part about my bets. I went 5-0. And Mom will answer. We'll get into Mom's questions. She only had 2 this week before we move on to breaking down this upcoming week, which should be a good one for you guys. Again, this is the 4th and 1 podcast. In case you forgot what you clicked on, anchor.fm/4th and 1. That's where you will get us and where you can support us. A couple bucks a month, and we'll answer any questions you guys want. I accidentally, instead of betting UNLV, which is who I meant to bet, the money line, I bet New Mexico, who was against them. So I was wrong in my betting, even though I picked UNLV. And if it was not for round-robin betting, I wouldn't have won anything, which really sucks because that was the first good bet week that I put together. But that does also mean I am making you more money than Captain Boring, who is now, I believe, chasing his dog, or his dog's tail's bleeding. I don't know. Dookie has been having some issues. For those of you who care, and this is a Mom answers questions because, I don't really want to talk about anybody else. I got the trans case. That's not a word. I transferred my name from Captain Fatty to Fancy Trash Can because Captain Fatty was, even for me, a little derogatory. So we went with Fancy Trash Can because really what I was referring to from oh my gosh, Captain Fatty was that I will eat anything. basically anything. So I'm just basically a fancy trash can, and here we are. Nothing's better. It does look like we did have some Duke tail blood on the scene, so that's Micaiah's keeping on going. As we move on to games this week, brought to you by you guys. Hey, gotcha. Okay. I am literally writing this ship right now. Micaiah's bawling straight up. This week is week number 6. Games start tomorrow. SMU versus UCF. I'm guessing that's a rescheduled game from last week, thanks to Hurricane Ian. That is SMU at UCF. Yes, in Orlando. And then we go to Friday with the big game there being Nebraska at Rutgers, I guess, or Memphis at Houston. Who knows? Honestly, that Colorado State-Nevada game looks good, too. And, of course, the UNLV. I think they're the Rebels. Who knows? Okay, we're going to start here off. Big games. Last week was big games at 3:30. This week is big games in the 12 o'clock slot. Fox has Michigan at Indiana. That's in Bloomington, Indiana. We have number 8 Tennessee taking on their first real challenge. That's number 8 Tennessee. Yes, I did say that, taking on number 25 LSU down in Tiger Stadium. And then we have number 17 TCU taking on number 19 Kansas, and Arkansas at Mississippi on the SEC network, and then Texas, Oklahoma. That's right. It's the Red River Rivalry this weekend. Those are your 12 o'clock games, including Florida and Missouri. Missouri gave I'm very disappointed. I do not remember who they just gave a run for their money last week. Georgia. They gave Georgia a run for their money, who did swap places with Alabama this week in the AP poll regarding positioning.
Okay.
But we're going to go ahead and start at the ESPN game at 12. That's number 8 Tennessee versus number 25 LSU. Tennessee had a bye week this week. LSU beat somebody in the late game.
Auburn,
thank you. In the late
I know that
game.
one. That's me. I know it. Sorry about that, everyone. Did you already explain my tail cyst situation?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great.
So we're going to start off with the 12 o'clock game there. I explained how last week was 3:30. This week is the 12 o'clock games. We're not going to touch Michigan, Indiana. Michigan, if you lose, you suck, and you should go kill yourself. But we'll start with Tennessee, LSU.
Hey, Daddy.
What do you got for me?
Tennessee, LSU. LSU has a pretty good defense, actually. And I don't think a lot of people know that. LSU is holding teams under 300 total yards per game, but Tennessee's offense is averaging 560 yards per game. So their defense is okay. It hangs in there. It kind of forces some turnovers. The thing that gets me for LSU is that Jalen Daniels leads LSU in both rushing and passing, and I never take it as a good sign when your quarterback's leading your team in rushing. And on the flip side for Tennessee, Hendon Hooker doesn't really or hasn't turned the ball over at all yet. So which side of the ball for when the Tennessee offense and the LSU defense are on the field, who wins that matchup is the key to winning the game, I think. The most important key. And whether LSU can force Hendon Hooker into an interception.
Way to stroke it. Do you have a pick there?
I do, but that's part of my 5, and I'll do that at the end of the show.
Then let's move on to the other on FS1, which should be the big noon kickoff game. It's number 17 TCU going to the Plains, taking on number 19 Kansas in Lawrence. This is an interesting one because these are two schools that kind of build up hype this past week. Like, we knew Kansas, they got 4-0, awesome. And then Kansas won, and we were like, they're America's team, F the Cowboys.
Right,
and so TCU was kind of sitting there quiet, and they're at a quiet 5-0, so what do we see here?
We see two very good offensive teams, and especially TCU. So TCU got Sonny Dykes, who was the offensive coordinator there, went over to SMU, won a whole bunch of games at SMU, put up a lot of points and a lot of yards, and now it comes back to TCU as the head coach. Max Duggan, TCU's quarterback, hasn't thrown an interception yet. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. And then Jalen Daniels, not to be confused with LSU's quarterback, Jaden Daniels, has also thrown for over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, and only 1 interception. However, where both of these teams like to dominate the football game is rushing. They both average over 215 yards per game, and I think TCU averages like 268 or something like that. So which defense can get a stop? They're both allowing over 360 yards per game. I think that this could be the game of the day in terms of scoring and excitement, and Kansas hasn't been here in recent memory. TCU has been here more recently, but still has a lot to prove in a very wide open Big 12.
Over under is 67 and
I know.
a half.
Yeah.
Is that high, or you don't think so?
Yeah. That might be the bet I'm going with.
These teams are okay, so I won't. But just for everybody else, these teams are middle of the road, about 370 yards allowed in total offense. So that's their defense allowing yards. But it sounds like we're going to move back from them. I'm excited. I'm not doing anything this weekend, I don't think. So I'm excited to watch this game. I honestly don't remember.
Well, do we have an announcement about this weekend and Saturday?
Oh, that's what I'm doing this
Hey, guys, I remembered.
Listen, man, I'm trying. Okay. Well, it's definitely going to be for the 12 o'clock games. So
yes, absolutely.
This is definitely going to be, my wife's a little bit upset with me, but who needs marriage? It's just a social construct anyway. I'm joking, honey.
Alrighty.
I love you so much. This week on at least YouTube, maybe Twitch, who knows? We might even get some Instagram in there, but probably just YouTube. We're going to be going live to do some like live reactionary sort of things for the 12 o'clock games, specifically the Kansas TCU game, assuming it doesn't get boring, in which case we'll tell you to switch. We did a live podcast, it was live to tape, so, take it for what it's worth, of the Big 12 championship, the first year that we did this, which was 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the same sort of thing, but you'll see we'll have it up. It will just be us bullshitting back and forth. Sorry, Mom. And you can come in, drop in the chat, say hi. We'll talk back and forth. Have a good time. You can watch with us. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of delay because the NCAA has their TV rights and all that good stuff. I originally wanted to do this to add another depth. Micaiah shouted it out. Were you thinking of this game, or were you thinking of a different game?
Oh, well, the Michigan game will be on one of my televisions because
but the Michigan game's always going to be on one of your televisions.
Yeah. No.
Wow. Great
podcast.
No.
I was just thinking of the other 12 o'clock games, but no, I think that's the highest profile noon game, right?
There's Tennessee at LSU, and there's Arkansas at Mississippi State.
We'll keep tabs on everything for the people.
On ABC, it's the Red River Rivalry, Texas versus Oklahoma.
But I kind of feel like Kansas deserves our
Kansas
attention.
Totally deserves our attention.
So then we'll just do Kansas.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to do Kansas. And we'll move on from there. Micaiah, Red River Rivalry, Texas, Oklahoma. Speaking of,
not where both teams wanted to be, but I like the trajectory that Texas is going this year over Oklahoma. Oklahoma's has given up 96 combined points over the last 2 games. Their defense that was good now isn't. Texas only has 1 Big 12 loss, and they kind of fell apart in the second half. Quinn Ewers might start. and their defense is actually pretty good, only allows 90 rushing yards per game, and so that's the key to the game, which defense can allow the fewest rushing yards, because both of these teams live off the running game.
ESPN says 120 rushing yards.
I messed it up.
They're averaging.
Well,
it's
that's
okay.
on me.
Longhorns 3-2. Oklahoma Sooners 3-2. That's 12 o'clock on ESPN. This game is always in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. So shout out there. We're going to move down the schedule to an early game in the Rose Bowl on Fox, 3:30. Number 11 Utah takes on 5-0 number 18 UCLA after trouncing, and yes, trouncing ranked Washington last week. Micaiah, I mean, I don't know. I saw the highlights and it looked bad, but what do you think this UCLA game is going to be?
It's going to be very, very interesting. UCLA's rush defense is actually pretty good. Both quarterbacks, whether that be Cameron Rising or Dorian Thompson-Robinson for UCLA, have over 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, and Cameron Rising has 2 interceptions, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson only has 1. So they both rely very heavily on the running game, and so which team can kind of set the offensive line a scrimmage wins this game. But this is also the two contenders that we both have noted at the start of the year to USC, or that could even possibly win the Pac-12 itself and represent the Pac-12 in the college football playoff. I think at this point you got to be undefeated if you're in the Pac-12 or get some things to bounce your way, but UCLA not looking bad under Chip Kelly, finally clicking a little bit.
It took him a little bit, but, we're there. Micaiah, I looked at the rest of the schedule. I think it's time.
It was a struggle this week to
It's
find 5 matchups.
Bulimic towards the end. We have number 6 USC taking on Washington State, South Carolina taking on Kentucky, Alabama's taking on Texas A&M. The game on ABC is Boston College hosting Clemson. Clemson is a 20-point favorite.
Clemson really impressed me this past weekend. Their defense is back legitimately to standards, and DJ Uiagalelei finally running the ball a little bit. Listen, that Clemson offensive system only works if the quarterback can run the football. He's finally starting to do it. Clemson is back, folks. You got the "it's back" soundbite. See, that would have been awesome, but you're not on it.
We're back.
Well, here's the issue.
I'm trying to make my picks, and they're bulimic because we're 100% in.
We're in mid-season form, baby.
Now.
Yeah, we're in mid-season form, baby.
We're in conference ball. Here's how sad the picks are. I'm looking at the Akron, Ohio game, and Ohio's favored to win this game.
Yeah, but Simeon, you got to do it for the people. You made people all the monies last week. Come on, do it for the people.
I'm just trying to find out. I don't even know who is even on top of. Let's take a moment because we need to pad our time a little bit. So
did you answer Mom's questions, by the way?
Yes, I answered her one question that she had.
Oh, she only had that was a huge paragraph.
Yeah, but you.
Oh, yes, but it was mostly the trash story. Yeah.
Yes, which is what I explained. Toledo is on top of the West of the MAC with 1 conference win.
Go toward Toledo. Toledo. Yikes.
And they're 3-2, and Buffalo is on top of the East Division at 2-3 with their 2 wins being conference wins. So, I don't know. Take that for what it's worth, I guess.
Do you just want me to jump into my 5?
We were going to transition there, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, 100%. Mm-hmm.
So do I need to wait for that to happen, or do you just want me to go now that I brought it up?
Now that you brought it up, we're just going to go ahead and...
We're just going to cannonball right into the shallow end, ladies and gentlemen.
Baby.
All right. So we touched on, Simeon pretty much touched on every one of these games, but now I will give you official predictions for every one of these games. So, number 17, TCU at number 19, Kansas. Again, tune into that live stream. I will have more for that announcement on our Instagram channel, so go follow us at 4th and 1 Podcast. See what I did there, Simeon?
I do.
Max Duggan, this is going to be an offensive explosion, I believe. Kansas has proven that they can play either rough and rowdy football, which is what I call what they did with Iowa State in their 14-11 win, or they can play high-scoring football, which is what they did in their Duke win. TCU, like every air raid team, scores a lot of points, but also gives up a lot of points. Kansas is the same, but I think has a little better defense. This game is going to come down to turnovers. Which defense forces the turnover on the turnover less, Max Duggan, or the only one turnover in Jalen Daniels? I like the over in this game of 67.5. I like Kansas to win, even though they are the underdog. I got to ride with Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk, KU. Let's go, Kansas. And that's my prediction. So we'll move on. Number 11, Utah at number 18, UCLA. Which offensive line can set the line of scrimmage and pave the way for their running backs? I think UCLA does it better. I know Utah's been in a tight game in Florida already, but I really like the UCLA defense just a tad more and their ability to stop the run. Chip Kelly finally has a senior quarterback. He's kind of chugging along a little bit now, gaining some steam. He needs this win. He gets this win in the Rose Bowl. And they go under the 65.5. So you can either take UCLA to win because you're getting 4 points, or you can take the under, which is, I think, the safer bet at this point. Number 8, Rocky Top. Hello, Tennessee. You are a top 10 team. Let's not screw it up, okay? They are going to number 25, LSU. Jaden Daniels, like I said, leads his team in both rushing and passing. I don't like that combination. It only works for so long. That's what Brian Kelly needs this year from his quarterback, but eventually this will be a running back rushing the ball for 115 yards per game and them rushing about for 190 yards per game. That's how his offensives work. LSU, can they slow down the Tennessee Volunteer offense, which averages 560 yards per game? I don't think so. It is only a 2.5 point spread right now. Tennessee keeps rolling on the road. I believe in them. Do not let me down, Tennessee, or I will never, ever, ever pick you again. Ever. Minus the 2.5, because I think it's about a 7-point win. Simeon, you touched on this game and you only mentioned it in passing. Unranked Washington State travels to number 6 USC. Here's the thing. Washington State probably should be undefeated, but they had a fourth quarter collapse against Bo Nix and Oregon, who have suddenly found the ability to score about 45 points a game. So that's interesting, and people should just keep that in the back of their mind. Caleb Williams only has 1 interception on the year, hasn't been turning the ball over. However, he's been, from the reports I've been hearing, he's been acting like a prima donna on the sidelines. Not really being a vocal leader, not really stepping up when things aren't going well for him. Can Washington State make things not go well for them? Because this team is a prima donna quarterback away from having a complete meltdown. Not calling Caleb Williams a prima donna, but I'm calling him out a little bit. From what I'm hearing, he needs to, when things aren't going well, step up and be a leader. That's the only way this team wins a college football playoff. I like USC USC to win this game, but at home it's close. Washington State's making life uncomfortable. The bet is Washington State plus 12.5. And finally, the Red River Rivalry. I had to throw this one on here because it's a rivalry, and to be honest, there's not many other high-profile games because Michigan State absolutely sucks this year. and I say that with great pleasure. This was supposed to be the game of the day, Ohio State and Michigan State. It's not because Michigan State sucks. OU defense is reeling. They have allowed so many yards and so many points through the last 2 games, 96 points to be exact. Texas's rushing defense is extremely better than Oklahoma State's. So I am taking Texas to run Bijan Robinson. I think Quinn Ewers is going to be back. Simeon, out of the last 12, I think 8 to 10 Red River rivalries have been decided. All but one, I think, have been decided by 8 points or less. So it's at 7.5 right now. I think you stay away from that and you take the over at 65.5 because Oklahoma's defense is garbage. So, just to recap, you take Kansas and the over of 67.5. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. But
I don't know if you did either.
Yeah, so I apologize, people. I'm not on my A game, but you take the over 67.5 because I think TCU scores a lot of points as well. UCLA to win, under 65.5. Tennessee keeps rolling, minus 2.5. Washington State makes things uncomfortable for USC, plus the 12.5. And Texas wins a shootout, over 65.5.
This one was weird for me. First of all, again, we're making you money. So keep betting, I guess, if you want to make money. This week was weird for me. And normally I'm an outright sort of bettor because you'll make more money than if you bet with the points. But I took 2 over-unders today.
Well, you did this last week, and it panned out very well for you.
And for those of you who, for some reason, are just listening now, Micaiah picks all your good games and gives you the bets on them. And then Simeon goes to the basement and picks all of those games. Basement mostly being group of 6 games, and that's the case.
But
here.
You've never done this well with this, and so I think that might be the key. You got to go to the basement a little bit.
Listen, it's a weird one this week. Okay,
all right.
So we got a little bit of Mountain West, we got a little bit of Maction, we got a little bit of American. Yes, that's right. We're gonna start there with Memphis taking on Houston Friday Night Lights. Houston going to Memphis. Now, mind you, me and Micaiah said Houston, 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 SMU, Houston, 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 and then nothing happened. They fell apart, and Memphis came out on top. Memphis is currently getting 3 points right now, over under 57.5. I don't have this game up. This is not one of the ones you're taking the over, but if you were feeling a little frisky because it's a Friday night, take the over, I'm taking Memphis outright. It's pretty easy for me to pick that game for Memphis outright, and I'm trying to remember. This was the game. Number 2, another Friday night game, 10:30, West Coast in the Silicon Valley. Yeah, that's right. UNLV. We're going back there, baby.
Oh, you're dipping back in the UNLV well there.
San Diego State. Over under is 52.5. For those of you who don't know small ball, which is all of you, because, why would I be talking about it? I have to pull this up here.
Because why do people live in the basement?
Right. So this is Friday at 10:30. This is on, for those of you who care, which is none of you, this is on CBS Sports Network at 10:30. San Jose State is favored to win. They have allowed 15 points a game. And that includes holding Auburn to 24 in their one and only loss this year. Now, here's the issue. UNLV likes to throw ball round. 400 23 yards averaging of total offense. High-powered 37 yards, 37 points, just under 38 points a game. They're allowing 22. Micaiah, what is 37 plus 22?
59.
Good job. It's 59. Now, is that above
I did it.
or below 53?
That's above, Sim.
Awesome. And that's how we did the math in order to take the over on that game.
Well,
Everybody
also,
give-
UNLV's defense gives up 360 yards per game.
Yeah.
So San Jose State's going to be able to score a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And San Jose State has no issue scoring. I'm not worried about San Jose scoring. So I'm going to take the free money that they gave me on that bet, minus 115, for those of you keeping track. This one is interesting because Nevada is only getting 3.5 points. Yes, that is 3 Friday night bets.
Oh, my
ladies
goodness.
and gentlemen. Again, at 10:30 on the West Coast, it's 0-4 Colorado State taking on a 2-3 Nevada Wolfpack team who lost to Air Force last week and was blown out 27-0 by Iowa. Nevada's only getting 3.5 points. If it made me more money to take that number, I would, but it doesn't. So, just take Nevada outright to win that game. But honestly, it's going to be by more than 3.5 points.
It doesn't. It would make you more money because right now, if you take them outright, it's minus 170. It's probably to take them minus the 3.5, 110. So it would make you more money to take them that way.
I thought it. I don't know how these odds work.
So do you want to take them that way? I need to keep official.
I'm switching it.
All
yeah,
right.
I'm switching it. So yeah, this is surprisingly this is the one that has me the most nervous.
Is it Nebraska and Rutgers? Did you take the last Friday night football game?
No, I did move into Saturday, and we went to Saturday. We'll go to the Saturday afternoon with some action.
Ooh.
It is the Toledo Rockets.
Oh
at
yeah, baby.
The Northern Illinois Huskies. I'm taking Toledo outright. Listen, this one was a little bit weird. They're getting 5.5 points. Over-unders on 60. It's probably going to be a high-scoring game. Quarterback for Toledo has just under 1,000 yards on his arm. But Toledo has been okay. They've been putting up points, and they've been allowing less points than...
And Northern Illinois has been allowing a ton of points.
Yeah, so that was just a quick little easy one. Minus 225 there. And the last one we're going on is we'll go to a nightcap.
Oh.
Way down south.
In the Pawpaw Patch?
Actually, where is Troy? Do you know where Troy is?
I think in Louisiana. I think.
I don't have that game up, and I'm not sure why I don't have that game up.
Troy and Southern Miss?
Troy and Southern Miss. For those of you keeping track, which is none of you, that is a... Did I pull up the right one? That is a Fun Belt game, and I'm pulling up the game here real quick. And this one, we did some more homeschool math.
Alabama.
Yes, Troy, Alabama. I'm pulling up the game. All right. Southern Mississippi is averaging 31.3 points a game. They are allowing 23.3 points a game. Okay? Troy is scoring 25.5 points a game. Mind you, they beat Western Kentucky, which likes to throw the ball, 34-27. Troy only allows 22.2. So let's just go off of those two numbers. 23 plus 22 is 55. Okay, those are their two average. The over-under is 44. The over-under for this game is 44. I looked at a lot of the games this weekend. This one was the most stupid. I don't know how I am getting this number right now. It's actually even worse. It's 43.5 on FanDuel. Not sponsored. 43.5 minus 118 on FanDuel. First of all, that's probably going to be a really fun game to watch, and it's in the South, so it's probably a really fun game to be at. I'm not going to do either of those.
I'm kind of with you. I don't know how this game's at 44 either, because in Southern Miss's last 5 games, their defense has given up 24, 10, 30, 29, and 17. And Troy's defense in their last 5 games have given up 27, 7, 28, 17, and 28. So they give up, and both defenses allow almost 400 yards per game. Yeah, dude, 44, bet that. Everyone, listen to my man. He went 5-0 last week. What do you think of Michigan getting the over being 58.5? I thought that was a pretty good number.
58.5 for Michigan, and they're playing
Indiana.
Listen, these games have been high scoring in the past.
I understand, but a 41-14 game, which is kind of what it was last year, which I think is what it's going to be, that's only 55. Like 41-7 or 41-14. That is, yeah, Indiana can kind of move the ball a little bit, but Michigan's defense has proven to be at least half decent this year. You know?
Yeah, I'm thinking, what was it, 58?
Yeah, 58.5.
58.
That just seems a little
take
high.
the under. I'm feeling the under here.
And then, what do you think? So, this is how bad things have gotten at Michigan State. The spread for the Ohio State-Michigan State game is 26 points.
Yikes.
The under, though, is 64, and I think you take the under.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think Michigan's offense is going to score. I'm a big fan of Ohio State's defense. So I see this one being also like a 41-14 type of game.
Do you think Michigan State's defense is going to be able to hold up that much?
Wow. That's pretty racist, but correct.
I think you get the foot taken off the gas, though, in a little bit.
I don't know. What is this? Okay.
Should Mel Tucker
thoughts.
get fired? Would
Yeah,
they
that's
do that?
What I was literally just about to ask you.
Would they?
They were high on Mel Tucker this year.
They signed him to a 9-year contract last year. The game right before the Ohio State game where they got absolutely massacred, they signed him to a 9-year deal. They're stuck with him.
Michigan State is in the basement. They are 0-2 away.
They don't look good.
Overall, they're 2-3, and I'm just pulling up they're 6 in the Big Ten East. Their losses include Washington, Minnesota, and Maryland. Their wins are over Western Michigan and Akron.
Yeah, it's not great at all.
And they have Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Penn State left.
Yeah, I mean, you might be looking at 4 losses. I mean, again, his first year they went 2-5, COVID year, whatever. Next year they win 11-2. This is the 3rd year. This is supposed to be his recruits, and I've said it many a times. You can't just use the transfer portal to build your team.
Who was his running back last year? Walker.
Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker really carried their team last year.
Yeah, really. And then 2 other lines I don't understand are there are 2 rivalry games in the SEC. It's Alabama and Texas A&M. I know Texas A&M has quarterback issues, but we don't know if Bryce Young's going to play. If he does play, we don't know how that's going to go. Texas A&M actually has a half-decent defense, even though Texas A&M fans don't want to hear that. They're big and they're athletic, and I think if you can pump them up enough with a big-time opponent going on the road, they're getting 23.5 points. Like, this can be a 17-point game, and everyone's storylines, which I think are, at this point in time, Texas A&M sucks and Jimbo should be fired, and Alabama, without Bryce Young, is still pretty good. Well, that's worst-case scenario. And I think a 17 to 21 point win still gets that message across. And then finally, you want to comment?
I'm not pulling the ejector seat on that Texas A&M team. If we're taking like 3 levels, but for Michigan State and for like good, be a little worried, panic,
right?
Pull the cord.
Yeah.
I'm more pull the cord for Michigan State and be a little worried for Texas A&M. Even if Texas A&M drops another game, I'm still not worried.
That's interesting because this is Jimbo's 5th year, I think. 4th or 5th year.
I think that win last year over Alabama, in my brain, I know this isn't the case for Texas A&M fans, but in my brain, bought him a lot of goodwill. And then a stellar recruiting class. I think if he wants to keep those recruits, he needs to do it, but he's shown that he can get you there with a Florida State team. So why would you not be able to get there with a Texas A&M team even? Because he can beat him. He can beat Mount Saban.
Yeah.
He can climb it.
Yeah, you're right.
He just needs the right pieces, and I think you're 100% correct. It's the quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then that makes me feel even better about A&M plus 23.5. Where's your level?
A&M plus 23.5.
Where's your level of panic on Auburn facing Georgia that's getting 29.5 points? 29.5 points, ladies and gentlemen. They're getting 30 points. I understand, yeah, they're not good. They're only their offense is only averaging 25 points this year or something like that, 23. But I just find it hard to believe that Brian Harsin is a bad coach. He did a lot with Boise State, and I just feel like the boosters are destroying that program. However, I mean, this could be his last game.
As literally Arizona State destroying Herm Edwards.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but it wouldn't shock me if that news article came out.
It wouldn't either for me. Here's the issue that I'm having with, as I sit and I think about Brian Harsin. I'm high on Brian Harsin. I mean, he's 9-9 in the SEC while he's been, so that's been a year at Auburn. He's 500 in the SEC at Auburn. Guys, Auburn, you've been in the basement since with Gus Malzahn. Why is it any better why is it going to be any worse? Who you going to go get? You going to go get Bill O'Brien? Yeah, that went well in Houston.
Well, I mean, since the boosters
wanted
wanted
what offensive-minded coach you're going to go get who's been able to prove themselves this year.
Urban
It's
Meyer.
not in Miami.
Urban
It's
Meyer.
not Bill O'Brien. Who is it?
Urban Meyer.
Yes. And Auburn is probably besides Texas A&M, those would be the SEC is stupid enough to do that. That'd be the only one. But I don't know if Urban Meyer wants back in. I mean, it's been an interesting way to end the podcast, but Brian Harsin's, dude. Who would love Brian Harsin's right now? Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm telling
probably.
you, if they get, first of all, only because of the boosters, Brian Harsin's is on pull the ripcord. If not, he sits still. Because he was there. You're building a brand. Didn't he have all of his recruits leave last year?
Yeah, he had a lot of coaches
transfers,
and transfers. Yeah, but your point, you made the best point about how A, it's the boosters doing this, and B, about how Brian Harsin is 9-9 in the SEC in his first 2 seasons with a Gus Malzahn team, as you also indicated, that was not very good. There's a reason Gus Malzahn got let go. And he has close losses. The big loss to Penn State really hurts him. But a close loss to LSU, I mean, those 2 teams are comparable in talent and where they would finish. I thought they would both be about 7-5 teams this year, and they had a 17-0 lead, and then their offense didn't score the rest. So yeah, it's an offensive problem, but Michigan State definitely would like to. Arizona State would probably like Brian Harsin.
Mm-hmm. Arizona State would like Brian Harsin. So we're seeing he's at number 2 Georgia. He's at Ole Miss. I forget where they're ranked. I think they're 11th. Then he's at Arkansas, at Mississippi State, at Texas A&M, at Western Kentucky. gets a break there at Western Kentucky, and then finishes the year at Alabama. In
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Iron Bowl.
those all could be losses.
It could be. He could end his season, and in which case he will get fired.
Oh, yeah. And then at that case, it's like, okay, come on. But however,
And then go to the Big Ten and start destroying everybody.
if he loses by like 21 on Saturday, 24,
you know,
yeah, I could see them firing, because this is a rivalry game too.
Yeah.
Auburn, Georgia is a rivalry game. I could see them firing him
Deep South's
after
oldest
this.
rivalry.
Yes. The Deep South's over this rivalry. Thank you, Simeon. I forgot that it was that. They could let
There's
him
also
go.
The South's oldest rivalry too. Don't forget that.
Yeah, that's whatever. Well, what's the difference between South and Deep South? Like, where's the line?
Who's plays the
Is the line at the top? South is the line at the top of Alabama, and then midway through Alabama, it becomes Deep South?
I guess, but then that doesn't make any sense because Georgia is in the north part of Alabama,
Right.
Like on the latitudinal,
Right.
Whichever one runs east-west. So, like, it's not the Deep South, and I don't know who has the South's oldest rivalry. I forget who has the South's oldest rivalry. Yeah, I mean, where is he? Oh, he's still at Houston. Okay, I was trying to remember where Dana Holgerson was.
Oh
Who
yeah,
he
I'm like,
lost to.
where's your
lost
where's your panic
4
meter on Dana Holgerson?
You're in the American. Sit tight.
Who cares?
No, like it's you had a really good year last year and you're hitting the slump. You're in the American. Your flow goes with your development of your kids,
Yeah.
of your recruits.
Yeah.
So
Well,
if you
but
lose
he
one
had.
year, then look at the MAC. The MAC is a great example.
Yeah.
I called Buffalo to win last year because Lance, shout out Lance Leipold, they just tanked right after him. Now they're back on top of the MAC this year with 3 losses. So there's not much you can do there. The South's oldest rivalry is between North Carolina and Virginia. So I guess it's south of Chapel
North Carolina.
Hill. Yeah,
Okay. All right. All right. And then that is, ladies and
that
gentlemen.
classifies as the Deep South. We figured it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, North Carolina is the line for the Deep South.
North.
Title?
So Charlotte is in the Deep South, for the record.
Oh, okay. So Charlotte is Deep South.
Okay, Micaiah, quick last question to wrap
Yep.
it up here real quick. So
Mhm.
let's say somehow he doesn't get fired. He loses against Georgia, Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. Okay?
Mhm.
So that means he picks up a win against Western Kentucky. So he would be
And Alabama.
3-2 now. If he beats Alabama, does he get to keep his job?
No, from everything I have heard and read, even if he beats Alabama, even if he wins out the rest of the way and somehow sneaks his way into the college football playoff, I don't think it will be a mutual split instead of a firing.
So he would have to legitimately win out and then win
the national championship. Yeah, and then they probably would keep him.
So listen, whoever is the AD at Nebraska, whoever is the AD at Michigan State, whoever's the AD at Arizona State. I know this really good coach who just happened to lose his job. His name is Brian Harsin. You should go offer him money because he's going to turn your program around, guy. He's going to do it.
But you got to
His
give him
last-
more than a year and a half.
And you
That's
gotta
the
give
only
him the
catch.
resources. Like, hello, you realize this is the guy who turned Boise into a perennial no-name powerhouse.
Well, no, that was Chris Peterson, but he's the guy who kept it at a
Who
no-name
kept it
power.
going.
Yeah.
Listen, the same thing could be said for North Dakota State. The dude has an 85-33 record.
He's a winner. Yeah.
He's a winner. He's 3-3 in bowl games. His 1 year he was in the Sun Belt at Arkansas State, he won it.
Brian Harsin
What?
did. Oh, I didn't even.
One
Oh,
year.
I didn't.
2013, before he went back to Boise State.
I don't. Why? Yeah, I don't get it.
And then
Auburn.
won the Mountain West 3 times and had the Boyles Award finalist in when he was the QB coach and offensive coordinator for Boise State. In
His
2009.
offenses are very good. He is trying to build a program,
He's the
and
type
you
of person you
need
want.
more than a year and a half.
Yep.
You need more than a year.
Well, speaking of that, we needed more than a year to get this podcast off the ground, and we have hit it. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, anchor.fm/4th&1, Instagram @4th&1 podcast. We will see you next week. Enjoy college football.
Wash your hands, you filthy animals. We'll see you for the live stream, actually.